Hey guys, so I have been doing a little bit of research lately trying to find the perfect drop spindle slash supported spindle to use for Angora fiber, because I have the Angoras. I'm kind of not necessarily promoting having Angoras, but I'm trying to explain how to, in a small space, to be able to make your own fiber. And so I do not like to spin Angora on a spinning wheel. My spinning wheel is right here. You can just see the corner of it. It pulls the fiber too quickly for me, and for me it's hard to get a really nice consistent yarn from it. So what I have done is I went on Etsy and got just some really inexpensive drop spindles that are very lightweight. These ones I think were 1.25 ounces. And if you're going to do drop spindles, just recognize that your yarn is going to have to be just a little bit thicker than it would be with the supported spindle, just because it has to support the weight of the spindle. And let's see, who did I get these ones from? Yeah, I got these ones from Tina's Angoras on Etsy. And they have a little marble top, but I wanted to show you something that I have done to improve them. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. This little nick, that little nick right there, I cut a little, I took a little serrated knife and chiseled a little niche right there. If you don't have that niche, what happens is that as your bobbin gets fuller and fuller, your fiber will come off the side and you won't be able to fill up your bobbin. So I have this that came with a different spindle that I'm going to show you in a second, and it's merino. It is similar to Angora because it is slippery. So the problem with drop spindles is, or one of the problems with drop spindles as opposed to supported spindles, is that it is not as easy to spin from the fold. Now, spinning from the fold is that you take a piece of fiber, you wrap it over one of your fingers like this, and then you draft from this point. And when you have slick, short fibers, that is the best way to do it. It's just a tiny bit trickier to do that with the drop spindle. So I'm going to show you this one. It was driving me absolutely crazy because I didn't have that notch in there, and I almost had a full bobbin and I couldn't get it spun any fuller because my fiber kept spinning off the edge of my I don't know if I can even show you the wrong way to do it now because I have that notch. If I didn't have it in that notch, let's see if I can try. I'll put it in a different spot. See how it just kind of comes off? And, okay, so I'll try and hook it, and it's not going to work because now it's going to go in that little notch. Can you see the little notch now? That little notch that I cut in it? Okay, so now it has a notch. Let's see. I don't remember which way I was spinning this one. Okay. Now, again, it's important with slick, short fibers to be able to spin from the fold. At least in my experience, it's been much easier. But with the spindle getting heavier, it's getting harder for me to control that spin. It's wanting to wobble a little bit because it's starting to get heavy. And something you need to remember when you're drop spindling is that as you wind your fiber on, it takes the shape of the spindle and it becomes the thing that is spinning. And so if you wrap it on in a wobbly way and you don't get it really super good and tight when you wind it onto the bobbin, that is why your whole spindle is going to start to bob and weave and not be what you want it to be. So from the very beginning, you need to make sure that when you're winding on, See, you see it didn't spin very long. It's starting to get too full to really spin very well. When you're winding on, you really need to make sure that you go up and down, make sure that it's really good and tight so that you don't end up with a warble later on. Yeah, once you get to this point and it starts to get heavy, it's really hard to spin with it. So this one is just about full. So I'm gonna spin it, okay. And that, the way that you just saw that creep on, I don't know, can you see it? The spin is trying to travel up. That means that I actually did a pretty good job with that draft. So this one I need to I need to ply next because it's full. So now I'm going to show you with a different type of spindle. I'm going to scoot back so you can see real good. Okay, so this is just a brass bowl. It would be better if it was smaller, like an egg cup, but I've been doing this a while, so I can do it with the bigger one. It just makes it less easy. This is a Russian spindle, and you can see how different it is. And this one was quite a bit more expensive. Instead of being like $11, it was $35, but I've never used one before, and so for the sake of research, I thought I had better get one, because these are supposed to be, I've never actually used a supported spindle before, and supported just means that you don't drop it. It spins on a tabletop or it spins in a bowl, and so that's what this is. And honestly, I really like it. I like it much better than the drop spindle. It doesn't take up nearly as much space. It's more relaxing. Right now I'm sitting up straight, but I could slouch back and do it if I really was tired or something. I'm just learning on it. And the difference here is that I don't have a hook. If this was a spinning wheel, this would be the orifice that the yarn was spinning from. Can you see that? That there? And this would be where the drive band would be. And if you've, well, everybody knows the story of Sleeping Beauty. This would be the spindle that she would be poking herself on. And they used to have, the spinning wheels would have a drive band that would turn something like this. And instead of having a hook or a hole that pulled the yarn through, you would draft off the tip of this. And it's actually really fascinating. Again, this is a Russian spindle. You can get other kinds of spindles. And there are not very many videos online about this particular kind of spindle because it has no hook. It's considered to be a more difficult tool, but in reality it's not. What it does is it teaches you how to hold your fiber in a way that will allow it to free draft or long draw, to do a long draw rather than a short draw. It means that your fiber has to be carded better. You can't have a lot of slubs in your yarn, in your fiber, because you cannot do a long draw with fiber that has not been appropriately carded. Because instead of being able to just pull it out of this, your fiber, it would bunch up and create just a huge mess. And so as far as consistency and ease of use, I much prefer this this Russian spindle. And I got this one from Tina's Angoras as well. I've seen some videos where they hold it down to the side like this, but I don't like that because then it tries to wrap around the tip of your spindle. I prefer to do it at this angle so that it can slip, so that the twist can get into the fiber. And then when I am putting it onto the bobbin, that's when I bring it off to the side. And because it's not dropping, there's not a warble. Again, if I've only been using this one for a few days, maybe 3 days, and I've only used it for about an hour at a time. But I've seen the few videos that I did see online that had this kind of spindle, they were quite fast. And I would imagine you could get a lot spun on this in a very short amount of time. once you had a little bit of practice. And again, I prefer drop spindles and supported spindles. That looks really good, honey. I prefer those if you have little kids. I have got an eyelash in my eye and it will not stop bugging me. I prefer drop spindles and supported spindles if you have little kids in the house, because it's really difficult to take a spinning wheel and put it up in the closet. Whereas with a supported or a drop spindle, you just take the bowl, you take your fiber, you put it up in the closet. You don't have to worry about kids getting into it. And when I had my first spindle, or sorry, when I had my first, not my first, the first spinning wheel that I ever bought, it's one of the reasons I sold it was because I had two little toddlers that were constantly getting into it, and I didn't have a room at the time that I could lock. We lived in a 600 square foot house, and there just wasn't space for a spinning wheel. And so this was a real lifesaver, happy tool for me. Why are you doing this when you know that I'm taking a video? I already acknowledged you kindly. Go find something else to do. Thank you. So for a house where you just want to make your own fiber and you see how much less expensive it is to do your own fiber than it is to go to the expensive crafting store to get your yarn fix, this is the way to go. And if it's something cool, you can show friends and stuff like that. And if you have your own bunny in the backyard, even better. Again, I have Navajo spindles and stuff like that, and they are super fun. For production spinning, a spinning wheel is nice, but if you're not trying to make a living off of it, you don't really need it. If you're just, I've made sweaters after just using a drop spindle. I've made scarves and that kind of thing just using a drop spindle or a supported spindle. Or not a supported spindle yet, because this is my first supported spindle. Although the Navajo spindle is a supported spindle, it's just that your leg supports it instead of it being in a bowl. So here in a little bit, I'm going to try and do some carding with the Angora fiber that I have, and I'm going to be mixing it with merino. I don't have any, oh, this is merino. This white merino. And that's what I'm going to be doing the hats out of. I can't start it though until I have this particular sweater finished. This sweater is this color, and you can see that the merino is white and the Angora rabbit fiber is a pale gray. And so if I was trying to card it right now when I have a dark project out and already started, what would happen is that it would shed. Even if I wasn't working on it in the same room, all those fibers would stick to me when I went from one project to another, and I would end up with fluff and just really unprofessional appearance on this darker sweater. And so I have to wait between colors in order to do any carding. My next two sweaters are, let's see, the next one is indigo, and I'm going to over dye it on a gray. So that one, I probably need to wait on too. I don't know. I really wanted to get some carding done so I could show it to you guys, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I have to just get these sweaters done first, because I really, really don't want all the fluff from the Angora. That's the thing about Angora, is that it's very, very poofy, and it gets all over everything. So anyway, there's that. And again, you can see that I'm not real fast, but let's see if I can show you a little closer. But you can see what pretty nice and thin and regular yarn it makes. I'm really, really happy with it. And that's the most I've ever paid for a spindle. 35 bucks. I thought I was going to die of a heart attack. And then I wanted to show you guys the gloves that I finished, because I'm not really sure what to think of them. What I did was I over dyed a black dye onto red yarn. I wanted to see what would happen. So it just looks black, right? But then you put it on. Oh, maybe you can't see it as much in this one. Okay, here's this one. Can you see it? So I took a red yarn and over dyed it black. And it just, I don't know, I think it's really nice looking because it makes the black just look shiny. But then you put it on and I don't know. If you're kind of a retro grunge kind of a person, you might think it's nice. But I don't really know. Can you see? When you stretch it, it definitely comes out. So it looks like a shiny red black. And then you stretch it. Let's see if I can find a spot where it'll stretch. Oh, maybe my light's not working. And you stretch it and the red shows more. And I'm just kind of holding on to it because I can just over dye it and make it black, but I've never, I don't know. I don't like the washed out color so very much. If I could figure out how to do this on purpose in a way that it would show up only in the specified spot that I want, because you can see it right there on the edge of my wrist. Right there. And I wish if I could get the light to show on it just right. So a little bit of red shows through is all. But the reason that this happened is because I put this wool in, I put this yarn in when it was dry, and so it broke the color. It broke the black so that it separated out into different colors, so it didn't absorb the same into all parts. And I don't know, I kind of think that it's fun, but I don't know that the owner of the gloves would think it was fun. I kind of go back and forth between, oh, it's kind of tacky because it kind of melts, but it's a black with red showing through. It's a black that has a tinge, a touch, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of red in it. And you really can't see it, can you? I think it's kind of cool, but I don't. The reason that I'm not as happy with it as I could be is just because they don't match necessarily. That if I could get both gloves to show up the same amount of red, then that would be one thing. But I can't get it to show up the same amount of red. Can you see that? And because, well, this one's closer. I don't know. I don't know. I think that I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, we're finishing the other sweater. This is sweater number 5. This is where we stand on it. I have 4 more to do. It's kind of hard to show it this way. There we go. Sweater number 5. I did get the spinning wheel all waxed up, and I love that wax that I used on it. The Canaba, is that what it's called? If I could find it. I've got all these cards all over the place from all this stuff I've been getting from Etsy. And Canaba oil, I believe is what they called it. Magical Moon, I believe was the company. And it worked really, really well. I'm really happy with how it looks. I used a little toothbrush to get in there and clean it. And I got a flexible, a stretchy drive band for it, and I'm not that thrilled with it. I have had to cut it down 3 times because it was too stretchy. It wasn't holding onto the wheel, and that's really frustrating because then it doesn't pull very well. The machine just doesn't work real well if you don't have all the settings right. So this is the 5th or 6th sweater, and it's kind of a pretty gray brown color. It's again a Romney, and I'm going to over dye this one. The last one was, but it'll still be a nice pretty blue one. And I think that's the only thing I had that I wanted to tell you guys about. We will talk to you later.